Hi, this is Ping. Today, I'm going to show you the importance of server-side tracking on Google Ads for your success in e-commerce. After convincing you to switch to server-side tracking with examples from my own stores, I'll show you a complete tutorial on how to set it up easily and for free. And then we'll look at the different mistakes you absolutely must avoid, especially when you have multiple tracking setups on a Google Ads account. Here we are on one of my Google Ads accounts. On your own account, you can go to Goal Summary to display the same page and see the different conversion actions already set up on your account. On my account, you can see that I have Google Analytics for tracking, which has tracked 26 sales and 1,035 euros in sales over the past 30 days. So this is the tracking that was already set up by default, for which I already made a tutorial on my YouTube channel 2 years ago, and it's still up to date. But what we especially want to look at is server-side tracking to see the difference it can make. Here I use TrackBee for server-side tracking. As we can see here, it also tracked 26 sales and the same amount over the past 30 days. But we can see a second conversion action generated by TrackBee, which is the order booster, and this one captures 2 additional sales and 230 euros generated. So that's the difference that server-side tracking can make on this small account. In other words, 2 extra sales, 230 euros more, which we wouldn't have captured if we had only used Google Analytics for tracking. And so it's important to have much more accurate tracking, which will allow us to make decisions about our campaigns that at first glance might seem unprofitable, but in fact, with server-side tracking, could break even or become profitable, and thus allow us to optimize accordingly. What are the reasons why tracking data doesn't show up in Google Analytics 4? There can be different factors, especially because when you use Google Analytics 4 tracking, it captures events on a browser, but sometimes customers visiting your site have ad blockers or simply refuse cookies, and so at that point, it can no longer track the different conversions. Here with server-side tracking, the different actions are sent back to Google, so we have much more accurate data. This is a small account that hasn't generated a lot of sales, but when we look at Google Ads accounts with higher volumes, like on this account, Google Analytics 4 tracked 58 sales and 2,500 euros in sales over the last 30 days. Almost the same as the classic TrackBee order tracking, but what we'll especially notice is that the order booster, in other words, TrackBee's server-side tracking, reported 37 additional sales, which is the equivalent of 1,600 euros in extra sales that Google Analytics 4 didn't detect. That's more than 40% data loss, which is huge if you want to make decisions about whether a campaign is profitable or not, whether it's shopping or search. So here, you'll even see that I've set as the main one another conversion action generated by WeTrack, which I use for this Google Ads account, also with server-side tracking. Its setup is different from TrackBee. It works with a single conversion action, whereas TrackBee, as you can see here, generates 2 conversion actions. But if we do the math here, 59 plus 37, we get the same amount generated as the WeTrack conversion action, which is also generated by server-side tracking. Here with a total of 97 conversions over the last 30 days. So out of these 97 conversions, once again, what we can see is that Google Analytics only reported 58 on its side. That's why it's important to switch to this kind of server-side tracking. In this video, I'll be using TrackBee to show you the tutorial for installing server-side tracking. As you may have seen on other stores, I use other alternatives like WeTrack, which do exactly the same thing, but it's more relevant for me simply because with a single subscription, you can connect multiple Shopify stores, and since I have several, it's more cost-effective for me. But what's powerful about TrackBee, and the reason I also install it on all my stores at the beginning, is that you can start for free for your first 50,000 euros in sales before moving to a paid plan at 100 euros per month. And actually, I can also use it as a backup tracking solution, mainly to make sure that the tracking is properly set up and consistent with the sales that are being reported. For example, here on WeTrack, we can see that the number of sales and the conversion value match, which is the sum of our 2 TrackBee trackings that were generated. And if one day WeTrack crashes, I still have TrackBee as a backup, which I could set as the main conversion action for my campaigns. And that way I'd have something much more relevant than Google Analytics 4, which is not at all reliable in terms of data. So you can log in and create your account on TrackBee. Once that's done, you'll just need to connect your Shopify store by clicking on Add Store. For example, you enter the sample store here. In my case, you enter your store name. You'll copy the API key provided to you and install their TrackBee app by clicking on Install. If you're already logged into Shopify and your store, just click on Install and it will be added directly to your store. We click on Install. Once you're connected, paste the API key you were given, and click connect. And here they want you to make sure you've enabled the app on your theme. Follow the steps, click the button. You'll see TrackBee Connect activated here. You'll need to make sure that at the top right, you've clicked save to confirm the installation. Once that's done, you can go back to the website. You click next and it will check that the installation has been properly completed. As you saw here, they say to activate the app on the theme, which is what we just did. We confirm that we've done it correctly. They will check that everything is properly connected and that there is no duplicate tracking with other applications that could conflict with your pixel. Once that's done, you'll need to connect your Google Ads account here. There you go, I've connected my Google Ads account here. I just have to click on connect. As you saw earlier, there are other advertising platforms that can also connect server-side tracking, and it's just as relevant to set it up on each of these platforms. I strongly recommend it if you use them. I'm clicking on connect here. There's a setup that's going to be done with Google Ads, and actually on my tracking on the current Google Ads account, I don't have any tracking set up except for Google Analytics, which hasn't reported anything and isn't properly configured at the moment. And now when I refresh, I should normally have 2 new trackings that will be created automatically with TrackMe. We wait for it to finish. Here it says setting up connection was successful. We click OK. And here we'll need to set up other things like TrackMe Conversion Booster. For that, we'll need to click on this and it will bring up a tutorial that you can follow to the letter, step by step and carefully. We'll do it together in any case, but normally you don't need me for this. Now we're going to click on next. They tell us on Google Ads to go to conversion objective settings. We're going to do that. Next, they tell us to accept the customer data terms. So you just have to follow the objective conversion settings step. We go to customer data terms and make sure we've checked and accepted the customer data terms. For me, it's already done, so I can't do it again. Next, we'll move on to the next step, which asks us to go to enhanced conversions, so enhanced conversions, and to enable it and set it to Google Ads API. It's really simple. We're in the same place. Objective conversion and settings. Except this time we're going to click on advanced conversions, enable them, and they tell us to set it to Google Ads API. Be sure to select this one because sometimes, depending on the tools you're using, it might ask you to choose something else. There you go. Now it's activated. Now we can go back to TrackMe and move on to the next step. This part is all about mode. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Same goes for taxes. That's up to you. For more details, I've actually created a complete training on Google Shopping, Google Ads, on how to set up the mode concept with pop-ups, etc. But here, I just want to make sure you get as much data coming in as possible. So let's click next. Now they're going to ask us to go to Shopify and add the customer events. For that, you go to Shopify. You go into settings, then you go to customer events. You add a custom pixel. You enter the name they tell you to. Here, when we click next, it's going to be TrackMe Google tag. Okay. And in TrackMe Google tag, they tell us to check this and that. So we'll follow the steps. We create TrackMe Google tag. We expand this, check the box at the bottom and follow exactly what they tell us to check. Next, in the following step, it will generate a code for us. We click on copy and actually we just have to paste it here. Once that's done, you click save and very importantly at the top, remember to click connect. Otherwise, it won't send all the data. Now the pixel is connected to the store, that's perfect. We can now click next, then finish. It will run a check. If you've just validated certain things, sometimes not everything will update right away, so we might see some errors pop up. In particular, if you've just activated, for example, the customer data terms here, well, you'll get an error. Here we have other errors coming up. They're telling us they can't send a conversion test simply because Google is still setting everything up. If it doesn't work, eventually, we'll be able to send a message to support so they can help us fix it. For that, you just have the chat here, and honestly, they're super responsive. And here, it's telling us another problem, which is that we already have some conversion actions set as primary. And this is really important to fix this issue, and it's done in our conversion goals here in the summary. As I showed you before, by default, we only had GA4 tracking and this one, which wasn't bringing in any data. And as you can see, we have GA4 here, which is set as primary. This can be really problematic because here we have 2 new conversions that have just been created by TrackMe and are also set as primary. So if we create a campaign and set a conversion action, well, the purchase, Every time we get a conversion reported on Google Analytics 4, it will count 1, but also on TrackMe, it will count 1. And actually, when we get a conversion, it will count it twice. So as a result, on certain campaigns, we'll have double conversions. We'll think we're extremely profitable when that's not the case at all, simply because we have too much data coming in due to precisely a duplication of conversion actions. For that, we'll need to set this conversion action as secondary or delete it. Personally, I recommend simply setting it as secondary, since that will also allow you to use it as a backup or for verification to see if the data is consistent across different tracking systems. For that, once you go into edit, you set it to secondary here in the conversion action for optimization and not as primary. Here, if we look at it again, we can clearly see that TrackMe Order Classic is set as primary, TrackMe Booster is set as primary, and we make sure that all the others are set as secondary. Here, it's still inactive. As long as you haven't received any conversions, it will remain inactive. But if you do receive conversions and they're not showing up, you can try checking with support to make sure everything is set up correctly. There we go. On our end, everything should be good now. Setup guide. Once again, here, if you look at each step, you can see whether everything has been done correctly or not. And then when you click on finish, any errors will be displayed. You see, I changed this here. The error hasn't been updated yet, and that's completely normal. There you go. Alright, so once it's validated, we're done with the purchase conversions. That's perfect. We've done the most important part. But you should know that we can keep improving the Google Pixel and the data that gets sent, especially by enabling this step here with advanced lead conversion data. You can click and validate these steps yourself. Basically, this allows us to send our clients' first-party data, meaning email addresses, phone numbers, first and last names, etc., which lets us perfectly match the data that's being sent back. And that's why you need to follow the different steps here by going through Google Ads on your account in the data management tools. Here we'll have Google Tag Manager, where you'll need to accept certain things here and there, as well as the email and phone number. We'll do it quickly. I'm not going to do all of these steps completely, but just to show you how to do it, that would be helpful. Here, tools, we go to Data Manager. In English, it's Data Manager. Here, there's a Google tag. If you haven't connected it, you need to do it. By connecting your Google Analytics and everything, you should have all the right data. So you click on Manage. Here, they tell us to copy and paste the Google Tag ID, but also, and most importantly, to scroll down and check email and phone number. I also check email and address. You confirm. There you go. They tell you to install the Shopify app, Google and YouTube. This one right here. Well, it's already installed. Basically, this also lets you connect the Google Merchant Center feed. So normally, that's why for me, it's already done. We connect the Google account, Merchant Center, well, the Google Ads account. You validate each step here. You paste here the ID of the Google tag that it asks for. Then you just need to go back to, like we did before, the conversion goals settings. They're telling us again to accept the customer data terms. That's already done. And then, however, it tells us to activate here enhanced conversions for prospects, for leads, but with Google tag here and not the API. So we can do that. We're going to go here into conversion goal settings. And here it's enhanced conversions for leads, for prospects. We activate them. And here we need to check Google tag. We activate it. And once that's done, you click accept. Afterwards, well, you'll probably get some errors where they'll try to check that everything is fine. For me, it's the same here. It tells me there's a problem with my primary purchase conversions, but still that was changed. So that will be updated later and it will work. There you go. Then same thing, you can IC activate VAT, or actually the way you display the conversion values depending on whether you want them to be excluding tax or including tax, etc. You just need to copy and paste this piece of code here and add it to the Google Pixel we created earlier. And you can also check this if you want. This lets you know whether these are customers you've had in the past or if they're new customers. Well, once all that's done, it's finished. We just have to wait, as indicated here in the yellow information, for everything to update, for the data to refresh, because it can take some time. So it's normal at first if there are still some errors, but otherwise the server side has been properly installed for our Google Ads tracking. So now when you create a new campaign, whether it's on Google Ads, shopping or search, you'll be able to check here that the purchase conversion action is being tracked with 2 conversion actions, which are from TrackBee, the classic TrackBee order and the order booster. both of them should be enabled. Right now, that's not the case yet because they haven't been fully validated. As long as you don't receive any purchases to send back data, well, we can't test if it's working. And then if it doesn't work, as usual, we contact support. That's it. Once that's done, you can properly create the campaigns and make sure everything is being tracked correctly. Or otherwise, if you already have a campaign running, you just need, for example, to go back to the campaign. Here we have a shopping campaign in French. You will click on the settings of this campaign, and here, under conversion goal, make sure you are set to purchase conversion and that both TrackBee indicators are green. That's it, that's all. To make sure everything is working perfectly. And then otherwise, the mistakes to avoid, once again, are to check that your main conversion actions actually match what you want to track. That is, for example, on another account, I want to track using the server-side tracking from WeTrack. Well, I only have this one as the main one and it works very well. Otherwise, the others, whether it's TrackBee or GA4, I've set them as secondary on this account simply because I want to avoid duplicates, but I keep them as secondary to make sure the data is consistent, so I can set them as primary if one day I have an issue with WeTrack, etc. If you want to go even further than Google Ads, don't forget there's the Ecom Escape course, which actually covers this module, but also where I did a public building from scratch up to 200,000 euros for a store from zero on Shopify, whether it's with SEO and Google Ads combined, thanks to these two channels. And then, well, I also show case studies of 5 or 6 other stores in SEO that perform well thanks to blogging, or others that perform solely thanks to Google Ads. Sometimes in SEO thanks to well-known niches, sometimes with exact match domains in SEO, sometimes with Google Ads stores that I created in half a day. So these are the stores that I show, that I reveal to my students, and of course, as part of the support, I answer all questions on Discord without any problem for all my students. Maybe we'll see each other in the course. Otherwise, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, show some support, and share this video.